Hey everybody, Marcus here. Going through my cars, getting prepared for the San Antonio RCHQ Nats, and there's been a lot of discussion on the F1 groups about setup and tires and et cetera, et cetera. So I decided to make a little video since I'm getting my car ready. Anyway, so we'll kind of go over some basics. So my car is obviously a GLF. It's kind of halfway taken apart right now. I'm like I said, going over it and getting it ready for the Nats. So let's start from the back, and we'll work our way towards the front, covering some tips. One thing you'll notice immediately is that I have actual rear droop. When you put this kit together out of the box, this part right here, see if I can figure out how to get this so you guys can see it. There we go. Right there. Well, that ball goes into that cantilever piece. If you set this up out of the manual, you have zero droop. And this car needs some droop. So what I do is the back side of that little triangle piece right there. Really hard to get a good view of this thing on the camera. There we go. Right there, all right? What you wanna do is take a small bit on your Dremel tool and you wanna Dremel that back towards the back of the car, about 1 millimeter should be good enough, right? And what that does, that's what's stopping it from full droop or from droop. It's not the shock, or it's not even this piece right here that's stopping it. You can take that off and it still won't go any further. So that's a big deal with making the car handle correct. It really is. So I would definitely suggest doing that. You know, the next F1 build, I'll probably make another video and I'll actually show you guys how to do it while I'm doing it. Another couple things with the rear of the car, I run 0 preload on the sides. I don't use any preload. And as you can tell, with my car just freely sitting here, it's dead even. Like it's not hanging to the left or to the right. That's what it's supposed to be. And how I do that, I basically will set the car down and I'll tip it up and I'll watch the spring and I'll adjust the coil, screw down until it barely kisses the top of that spring. And once I get one side set, I'll go to the other side and do the opposite way. You should not leave any preload on there. I do this with my GLRs too. And I think if you have to find a way to set tweak, I mean, if you need to set tweak, obviously do what you got to do, but you shouldn't have to do that. And I usually don't. My car doesn't pull one way or the left or point to right. It's perfectly straight. Runs great. You know, really good car. Probably my favorite driving car, to be honest with you. Okay, so moving forward a little bit. What else? This week there was some discussion about how the steering wheel lock to one side. A couple things with that. It's an open wheel car, so you know when you hit stuff, it's gonna jerk and hit the servo saver, and it can get in a bind. You know, but there's also no reason to have full 100% lock to lock steering on it. You shouldn't have to do that. I do run the upgraded servo saver, and I got one of the old school ones that's actually all aluminum. It's been great, but every once in a while it'll still catch sometimes, and I honestly can't tell you why it does it. It just does it. You know, it's just one of those things, I guess. Servo wise, the servo that comes in the kit is just awful. It's just not. I kind of wish they shouldn't even sell it, to be honest with you. I'm using the titanium in this car. I had put an AO6 in here at one time, but for some reason it got the linkage right there would get in a really kind of a weird bind one way and not the other. So I took it out and put the titanium in there. I've had no problem with it so far. Been pretty good. Let's talk about the chassis. So, all right. So I've been running this actual car for about 2 years now. It's been great. When we first got the car, everyone wants to get to brass chassis because like on the GT, the first thing you want to do is have the brass chassis. Well, On this car, it drives really good with the brass chassis, but it's just slow. Like it accelerates out the turn slow. It doesn't transition very well. It's not fast. Maybe for a beginner it's great, or for somebody who's just starting out in F1, maybe it's good. But honestly, I wouldn't go with it. I think the stock carbon chassis is way better than the brass, and the stock carbon chassis, the only issue you would have with that is when grip comes up, it will traction roll. That's why I made this chassis, which is in between the weight of the brass and the carbon, and it's wide like my other chassis. That makes the car very, very stable. Excellent upgrade, can't beat it. It really makes a big difference, and it looks cool. All right, so now we're gonna get to the complicated front. A few things you can do to add steering. One, this brace that connects a servo saver to the front bulkhead, you can actually loosen that screw up a little bit, and it can give you more steering in some situations. Now, if you get too crazy with that, the car can also hook. So that's one of those last ditch efforts for me. I usually try to keep it on the car. But if I'm on a track and it just will not turn, I usually will just take that off, and it gives the car a lot of steering. Kind of a tuning aid. So for the front, now we're going to switch to another. I have another front end assembled, so it'll be easier to see. This part gets a little complicated. One of the first things I hear on the internet, on the forum, is that the tires are not, the front tires at least, are not very good, or the car pushes with them, and there's a whole lot of scenarios to why this happens. I've tested like pretty much anything I could put in the car to try to get the best steering. There are some tires that probably would be better, maybe, but honestly, the look of the F1 to me, I'm a scale kind of a guy. I like things to keep it real and looking as close as we can as possible. So I like to stick with the 21s on front. And listen, my dual rate is at 85 most of the time, maybe 90, which means I have more steering if I need it. I usually don't need that much steering on this car. Couple things that help to that. If you go softer, I'm going to go back to the chassis right quick. If you go softer on your side springs, it's going to take a little bit of steering away from the front because you have more grip in the back, right? You don't really need the reds. You don't really need the reds. Greens are great, or even yellows can work too in some situations. But I usually tend to stick to green. I use 15K grease on all three in the back, and I have a red spring, red center spring, and I never change anything on this car. I don't. I can't even tell you the last time I greased the shocks, to be honest with you. I'm gonna do it today, but I usually don't mess with it at all. All right, back to the front. All right, see if I can make this easy to understand. There's a lot going on with the front of this car. Not only is it a double 8-arm suspension, but you also have coilover springs and shocks, and you can adjust your droop. So out of the kit, most people who build them don't understand droop. So what they'll do is some leave the screw completely out. The arms are hanging all the way down. The car is not going to turn like that. It's not going to turn at all. So I try to tell people to set your lower arms about 0.2 millimeter, which I'm exaggerating, but 0.2 millimeter up over being flat. That makes sense if you can kind of understand that. So you want the arms to be up this way just a little bit. This is not this much. I'm just showing you so you can see it, right? But here's the thing. Droop is active when the car is sitting at ride height. So even if you have your arms, even if you have them dead even, but then your coilover, your shock collar is all the way up, you're going to have more droop because when you set the car on the ground, the arms go up even more, which means they're going to come down more when the car accelerates. So it's not just setting your arm, it's also setting the shock collars with the arms. It's kind of complicated, but it's not something you can't figure out. It's just hard to do these things without a video, especially on the internet. So that's that. One of the things I put in the car, obviously, is this piece right here, which is a pivot brace. And what that does, it keeps the arms from moving forward and backwards loose. As anybody has this car will tell you, that's what they will do. And then that makes the car really darty on the straightaway. and not as precise. Put that on the car, it straightens the car out straight away, and the car feels a whole lot better. Other than that, let's see here, knuckles. This is my typical setting for the knuckles. I usually go with 0 in the bottom, and then I'll go with, depending on the track, I'll go with, this one particularly would be, I think 3. What do we have on this one? Actually 2. This is, that's a 1mm blue spacer on here, which would be 2 of the stock spacers. So I usually go between 2 or 3, depending on the track. And the difference would be roll center, basically. You'll change your, by lifting the arms up or down, you can change how the car goes into the turn. All right. Other than that, tires, and I've gone through this on a few other videos. These are my F1 tires. I glue the outside sidewall lip, and I glue the inside sidewall lip. Fronts are the same way, backs are the same way. I do this because as the tires get older, they get softer. As the tires get lower, they also get thinner. And what happens then, the sidewalls will start to peel up, especially if you're only using tape. And on the F1 tires, if it's tape, there's absolutely nothing holding this part right here to the wheel. It's just pretty much flopping around. So then what happens is the edge will start moving around, and the car starts doing weird, funky stuff in turn and oversteering and snap rolling and all kinds of weird stuff. So by gluing it down, it keeps the car consistent no matter what. It does. Your car will act the same from start to finish. All right, guys. I hope this helped out a little bit. And as always, hit me up on Messenger or comment on the videos on YouTube, and I will get back to you. Thank you.